Imagine getting sued by a massive multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Sounds like a nightmare, honestly.
Right. But then you open the legal paperwork, and you realize they aren't asking for millions in damages. They're only asking you to pay them, wait for it, $1 single dollar.
Just $1.
Just $1.
Yeah.
Today we are looking at why one of the world's absolute biggest outdoor brands took a beloved drag queen to court over pocket change. Welcome to a brand new deep dive. I'm so glad you're joining us for this one because we are unpacking a controversy that has just completely taken over the internet over the last few days.
Yeah, it really has. I mean, it's this massive collision of two totally different worlds. On one side, you've got this highly visible environmental activist and drag queen. And then on the other side, a global pioneer in eco-friendly corporate apparel.
And our source material for this deep dive, it comes directly from the front lines of internet sleuthing. We're digging into this highly active, really heavily moderated, guest list only discussion thread from the Reddit community Soar Pop Culture chat.
Oh, yeah. They go deep in there.
They really do. And this thread is from late May 2026, so literally just a few days ago. And it meticulously dissects this exploding legal drama between the drag queen and climate activist Pattie Gonia and the outdoor apparel company Patagonia.
Right. But before we get into the timeline, we really need to set the parameters for you right away. Because anytime a conversation mixes, environmental activism, queer identity, and corporate business practices, you are going to encounter incredibly strong, emotionally charged opinions.
Oh, absolutely.
So our goal here is strict impartiality. We are not taking a side. We're simply going to report on the facts, the legal mechanisms, and the community reactions exactly as they are presented by the users in this specific Reddit thread.
Exactly. So for you, the listener, the mission of this deep dive isn't to just get caught up in celebrity gossip. I mean, this is a literal masterclass in how intellectual property actually works in the modern creator economy. We are going to explore what happens when online activism just blurs into a commercial enterprise.
Yeah, that blur is where it gets messy. It's super messy. And the narrative really starts with this massive divide between the court of public opinion and the actual mechanics of the law. This whole thing caught fire when Pattie Gonia posted an announcement about the lawsuit on social media. It was your classic, Notes app style post.
The infamous Notes app screenshot.
You know it. And Pattie claimed that this lawsuit from Patagonia would result in the, and I'm quoting here, erasure of my name, my advocacy, my community, and everyone I employ.
And, well, the Reddit thread documents how the immediate reaction on Instagram were just overwhelmingly supportive of Pattie. I mean, fans instantly mobilized.
They really went to bat for her.
Totally. They were calling and emailing Patagonia. They were flooding their comment sections. They were basically complaining about what appeared to be this massive, unwarranted corporate overreach against a grassroots advocate.
But, and this is where it gets interesting, the users in this heavily moderated Reddit thread are looking at the situation through a completely different lens. They are entirely ignoring the emotional appeal and focusing on the actual mechanics of branding.
There's this one really fascinating comment from a user named Lindris who brings up the rapper Eminem.
Oh, yeah, the Eminem comparison.
Right. So Lindris points out that Eminem spelled his rap name phonetically E-M-I-N-E-M, specifically to sound like his initials, M and M. But he never got sued by Mars, Incorporated, the massive candy company, for trademark infringement.
He didn't.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
I have to push back here. If Eminem can rap under a name that sounds exactly like a famous candy brand without getting sued, why can't an activist do drag under a name that sounds like a famous mountain brand? I mean, isn't Patagonia's entire existence essentially a conceptual parody, which should be entirely separate from selling hiking gear?
What's fascinating here is how the Reddit users dismantle that exact assumption, right? They explain the functional boundaries of trademark law.
Okay.
So users like Theorgasm Fairy and Mr. Tortfeasor, they jump in and explain that trademark infringement is never just about how a name is spelled or how it's pronounced.
It's more than that.
Way more. It's this highly specific combination of visual, phonetic, and conceptual factors. Like, sure, Eminem sounds like M&M's, but Eminem the rapper operates in the music and entertainment sector. Functionally, he exists in a completely different commercial universe than Mars Incorporated.
Meaning there is zero risk of brand confusion. Like, a consumer is never going to walk into a gas station, try to buy a bag of chocolate, and accidentally purchase a hip-hop album.
Precisely. The parody or the phonetic play, it only works legally if you stay in your own commercial lane.
Got it.
Performing in drag as Pattie Gonia is one thing. That's art, performance, parody. The conceptual line gets crossed the moment the parody enters the exact same commercial marketplace as the original brand.
And according to the thread, that's what happened here.
Exactly. If you look at the timeline the Reddit users uncovered, crossing that commercial line is what triggered this entire dispute.
And that timeline is really where the narrative flips for me. Because if you just read Pattie's Instagram post, you would assume this was a sudden, out-of-the-blue attack by a massive corporation trying to squash an activist.
Right, like an ambush.
Yeah, an ambush. But the Reddit thread completely shatters that sudden attack narrative. Users linked directly to Patagonia's legal complaint and their press releases, and they uncovered this years-long paper trail of behind-the-scenes negotiations. This didn't just start this week. It goes all the way back to February 2022.
Which is wild, and at that time 4 years ago, another outdoor brand called Hydro Flask wanted to do a collaboration with Pattie Gonia.
Okay.
But before they moved forward, Hydro Flask actually met with Patagonia to make sure there were no legal objections to using the phonetic parody in the collaboration.
Which really shows you how carefully these major brands navigate intellectual property behind closed doors. I mean, they literally held a corporate meeting about a drag queen's stage name to make sure everyone was legally insulated.
They really did. And the outcome of that 2022 meeting was a documented agreement. Patagonia essentially said, look, we support the advocacy. We have no problem with Pattie using the name for activism.
They gave their blessing.
They gave their blessing. But in exchange for that blessing, Pattie agreed not to sell Patagonia branded merchandise and agreed not to use fonts or designs that were substantially similar to Patagonia's logos. It was a very clear functional truce.
But according to the timeline in the thread, that truce breaks down in late 2024. Pattie begins selling branded apparel online, and the designs are using versions of Patagonia's logo.
Oh, yeah.
Patagonia reaches out privately to enforce their 2022 agreement. Pattie refuses. Patagonia sends a subsequent note asking to discuss ways forward. Pattie just ignores it.
Complete silence.
Complete silence. And this leads to what I think is the most startling detail in the entire deep dive. In January 2025, Patagonia files a lawsuit against Pattie. But they don't sue for millions of dollars. A Reddit user named dmunkitneasd notes that Patagonia filed a warning suit seeking exactly $1 in damages.
A single dollar.
Wait, a $1 lawsuit. When I first read that, I thought it sounded incredibly petty. It feels like a billionaire suing you for the loose change you dropped in your couch cushions,
All right.
But from a legal standpoint, based on the thread, this was actually a massive olive branch that Pattie just completely ignored.
Yeah, that's exactly how the Reddit legal experts read it, particularly a user named Mama Needs a Car, who points out that seeking only $1 is a highly strategic, almost generous maneuver.
Generous.
Yeah, because by suing for just $1, Patagonia gave Pattie the option to simply walk away with zero financial penalty. They weren't trying to bankrupt her. They weren't trying to recover lost profits.
They just needed the paper trail.
Exactly. It was a symbolic action to hire the lawyers, file the official paperwork, and put up a legally binding stop sign. It allowed Patagonia to protect their intellectual property on paper while actively avoiding the financial ruin of an activist. It showed they wanted to be fair.
But Pattie's continued refusal to stop selling merchandise forced them to escalate.
It did.
But filing a warning suit for $1 is still just a warning. If Patagonia already established that boundary in January 2025, what caused the massive, scorched earth legal war making headlines right now in late May 2026?
The escalation.
Yeah, the narrative in the Reddit thread shifts from those past gentle warnings to an ultimate trigger event.
Yeah.
Pattie didn't just ignore the warning. She escalated the situation directly to the federal government.
Right. And the catalyst for the current full-scale lawsuit was a specific legal move made by Pattie in September 2025. Pattie Gonia officially filed a trademark application with the United States Patent and Trademark Office.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she sought the exclusive legal rights to the brand name Pattie Gonia. And she didn't just file it for performance art. No, she filed it specifically to sell clothing and apparel, to engage in online marketing, and to host outdoor sporting events.
So she is taking a name that sounds exactly like Patagonia and legally trying to lock it down so she can sell outdoor clothing and host outdoor events. I mean, filing that trademark is like drawing a line in the sand and officially daring the government to declare her the owner of the name.
She placed herself in direct, undeniable commercial competition with the exact company she was parodying.
And this is where the Reddit thread gets highly educational regarding how the trademark office actually works. Users who identify as brand designers and attorneys like Limetime45 and Glittering Laugh 958, they explain the absolute golden rule of trademark law, and the doctrine is use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. It's foundational.
But here's where it gets really interesting. I want to challenge the rigidity of that doctrine, because it's so easy to throw around a phrase like use it or lose it in a law school classroom. But practically speaking, we are talking about Patagonia.
Yeah.
They are a multi-billion-dollar juggernaut with essentially unlimited resources. Do they really face an existential threat from one drag queen selling a few T-shirts online? Couldn't the corporate board just look the other way, recognize the environmental alignment, and let her have her fun?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the answer is a resounding no. They absolutely cannot look the other way.
Really?
Yeah. The Reddit consensus explains that a corporate board has a strict fiduciary duty to protect the company's assets. And to put it simply, fiduciary duty means the corporate executives don't actually own the company the shareholders do.
Okay, so the executives are just the custodians of the brand's value.
Exactly. And if they allow someone to permanently siphon off their trademarked identity, the company loses value, and the shareholders can literally sue the board members for negligence. The law makes zero exceptions for cool, progressive, or activist infringements.
So they have a legal obligation to defend the borders of their property no matter who is crossing the line.
They do. And a user named Blueskis8484 points out the terrifying broader implications of letting this specific infringement slide.
Like what?
Well, if Patagonia doesn't fight Pattie Gonia in federal court right now, they establish a legal precedent of non-defense, which means next year, a massive anti-climate change lobbying group or a notoriously anti-LGBTQ organization could start selling outdoor apparel under a name like Patagonia, spelled slightly differently, and use it for malicious parody.
Oh. And when Patagonia tries to sue that malicious group, that group's lawyers will simply point to the Patagonia case and say to the judge, look, they let Patty do it to sell clothes. They clearly abandoned their exclusive rights to this phonetic identity years ago.
Yes, exactly. By filing her own trademark application specifically under the apparel classification, Patty essentially forced Patagonia to prove in a court of law that they still owned their own identity. If they ignored her federal filing, they risked abandoning their trademark entirely.
That completely changes the context of the lawsuit. It is not about a big corporation being petty toward a drag queen. It is about guarding the gates against anyone who might want to weaponize the brand in the future.
Exactly.
But filing the trademark was really only half the battle. If Patagonia was going to prove infringement, they had to look at what was actually being printed on the merchandise. And the Reddit users were extremely focused on the specific visual evidence.
Because it wasn't just a phonetic nameplay anymore, it was the imagery. Patty was selling gear featuring a mountain range logo.
Right.
And a user named Top Cheesehead, who mentions they have an art degree and are versed in art copyright, points out that this logo was not just a clever homage or a hand-drawn parody of a mountain. They noted that the mountain range on Patty's gear was a direct digital copy of Patagonia's exact trademarked mountain silhouette.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was just flipped horizontally in reverse using an almost identical font.
So Command-C, Command-V, flip horizontal, printed on a shirt.
Essentially, yes.
And the Reddit users noted that some of this merch included slogans like hydrate or die straight, which, is a very kitschy activist slogan.
It is catchy.
But it is being stamped right next to a copied corporate logo. So I was looking through the thread for Patty's response to this visual evidence, and I found her defense. Patty claimed that the logo in question was fan-made artwork.
Fan art.
Yeah, she essentially argued that she didn't design it, a fan did, and that it wasn't being officially sold as retail merchandise. It was framed as this innocent, grassroots community creation. Does that defense actually hold up?
Well, the Reddit community immediately fact-checked that defense. A user named LPPine12, who actually identified themselves as an early fan of Patty's, countered that claim directly.
What did they say?
They pointed out that while the design might have originated as fan art, Patty personally distributed these specific logo-infringing stickers to early donors of her fundraisers.
So what does this all mean? If you receive fan art that is clearly ripping off a recognizable corporate logo, and you decide to use it as a physical reward to incentivize donors who give you money, at what point does it stop being innocent community appreciation and start being an unlicensed merchandising operation?
This raises an important question because it gets to the very heart of how modern creators monetize their communities. The Reddit consensus is that the origin of the art, the fact that a fan drew it, matters far less than the application of the art.
Oh.
The moment you take that design, endorse it, and use it as a transactional reward to drive monetary donations, your intent no longer matters. When an activist attempts to take a parody persona and merge it with a commercial clothing enterprise, all of the magical legal immunity we grant to parody just vanishes.
It's gone.
Right? You are no longer an artist making a statement. You are a vendor distributing a product, and you are exposing yourself to standard, rigid corporate litigation.
And the tone of the Reddit thread was incredibly critical of how Pattie handled the public relations around that reality. Users like Meg Swan were particularly vocal. They found it, quote, slimy that Pattie framed this corporate trademark lawsuit as a direct attack on her queer identity and her environmental activism.
Yeah, using identity as a defense against a standard commercial dispute is a very dangerous rhetorical game to play.
Meg Swan pointed out that using queerness as a shield to deflect from basic commercial copyright infringement is actually manipulative. It implies that being a queer activist somehow exempts you from the laws of commerce. And the users argued that this kind of framing actually harms the broader LGBTQ+ community because it weaponizes genuine systemic struggles for equality merely to protect a merchandise revenue stream.
According to the thread, it basically conflates identity with inventory. The lawsuit isn't about erasing an activist community or silencing a climate advocate. It's strictly about stopping a competing clothing vendor from using a flipped silhouette of a trademark mountain.
So, to bring all of this together for you, the listener, what began as a clever, boundary-pushing drag persona, a genuinely funny play on words, eventually hit the immovable concrete wall of intellectual property law. We've explored how the immediate public outrage you see on an Instagram feed so often misses the deeply documented legal reality happening beneath the surface. I mean, we saw how a seemingly petty $1 warning suit wasn't an insult, but a massive strategic olive branch that went ignored.
We unpacked the rigid, unforgiving, use-it-or-lose-it nature of trademark law and the fiduciary duty a company has to protect its assets from abandonment.
And most importantly, we saw how the choice to file a formal trademark application with the government to sell clothes under a parody name essentially backed a reluctant corporation into a corner, forcing them to strike back to protect the borders of their own identity.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought to mull over. As we navigate this increasingly digital age, the lines between who we are, what we believe, and what we sell have never been blurrier. Activists are building personal brands, and corporate brands are trying to position themselves as activists. If your personal, lived identity as a grassroots advocate eventually morphs into a monetized lifestyle brand, complete with trademark filings, merch drops, and donor incentives, at what point do you stop being a voice for a movement and simply become just another competing corporation? Where exactly is the line between a genuine social movement and a merchandise stand?
It's a question that every modern creator is going to have to answer eventually, because, as we saw today, the theater of online activism might be endless, but the courtroom of commerce has very hard, very concrete walls. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.